So when I talk about what we've learned and what we're doing, I want to be clear that we haven't done this from necessarily an evidence research base, but mostly anecdotal. But what we did learn was that, at least in the communities that we visited, and this was in Ecuador, that mostly the access was for people with blindness. That primary focus of was for people with physical disabilities, around mobility. That there were very few strategies for people with developmental or cognitive challenges. That children with disabilities attended the schools, but without many supportive services or accommodations. Yes, you can come to school, and you have every right to be a part of the classroom, but there were not supportive services to aid the student to be independent or to have access to the curriculum. We met with a large group in the deaf community. We found that many attended schools, but remained illiterate when they left the school environment. That most disability-related organizations that we met with had not met other organizations, and they had very little ability for networking. And that many organizations, specifically disability-related organizations and the schools supporting communities, were mostly located in inaccessible settings. So, 2006, having followed what we had witnessed, especially in the region of Ecuador, is called Tungurahua. If you're familiar with Ecuador, this is near the town of Ambato, which is south of Quito, about 2 hours south of Quito. We started to establish relationships with the disability communities there, and we actually gathered about 10 different organizations together for a meeting, and they had not met each other before. And I'm saying they were within like a 20-mile radius of each other. So this opportunity showed us that there was a hunger for the exchange of information, but they hadn't really had some way to come together before. So what we did was that we met with them and we made a plan for our return. I have to say that we were also met with crossed arms, and so what do you have to offer us? Because so many times people come from the United States and other industrialized countries and go there, say they want to help, pat themselves on the back, and then they go off and have their life. What impressed the people where we went was that we actually came back, and that actually almost all of the volunteers who came the first time came the second time. And then it's continued to be much of the same. So they've begun to build trust. So yes, we've begun to have the trust of the organizations. We've had an increase of awareness of how the community's existing programs and services work. We've had an increased awareness of the concerns the families have, teachers, therapists, and the adults with disabilities have in their communities around accessibility. We've had an increased awareness in the types of information and resources that are commonly available or lacking in the communities. We've had an increase in the, a better understanding of the unique needs in the communities that are culturally appropriate. So in our first goal to increase awareness, I want to just define our goal. It's to expose communities in developing countries to the benefits of assistive technology that can lead to a sustainable increase in the number of people with disabilities participating in education, employment, and independent living. So our progress around that goal, 2007 to present, we started having exchanges with communities, what we call information and cultural exchanges. And in those exchanges we learned together, collaboratively, what would be meaningful in these communities. We began to have a model of what this looks like. So we've actually, since the time, have had 22 cultural and information exchanges with disability-related organizations and schools. We learn about what programs and services are there, and they also learn from us the kinds of things that we may be able to help bring into the community, and they make choices about what they'd like to consider to integrate. One of the things that popped out of that was what we call adaptation libraries. We would help each other learn about how to create adaptations made from local materials. We would not bring things from here, but we would basically go to the local markets, gather materials, and start creating hand splints and mouth sticks and head wands and a wide variety of things. And when the organizations would invite people in the community to come to the workshops, we would hold these workshops, and then they would have all these adaptations. The one year we came back, and quite a few number of the adaptations were gone. We were like, oh, okay, so because we were thinking of them like models to replicate. Somebody would come and see something, and then they would create it for themselves and maybe kind of customize it. Well, they said, well, there was this one head wand we had made, a very simple head wand from a hat with a brim and the stick coming from it. Well, it worked really well for this one guy who could use it for his work. And it worked so well for him, they gave it to him. Well, we thought that was great, but then there was no model left for anyone else to see it and to learn from it or to replicate it. So we decided together that it would be good to establish these adaptation libraries where we could have displays of all the various types of adaptations that have been created in the community. And so we've to date established 3 of those in different areas. And we're currently partnering with the university in Ibarra, it's the northern part of Ecuador, to establish an adaptation library there where their students and the community can come in and learn from what's there. Our second goal to increase availability is to collaborate with the communities to provide assistive technology that's culturally sustainable and appropriate. Our progress around that is that we've actually created a cost-effective, sustainable model for replicating adaptations. And that is by using materials in the local markets. And that we train parents, teachers, therapists, and adults with disabilities to provide workshops to their own communities. The third goal that we've had is the increasing capacity, and this is to provide appropriate training and resources that enable communities new to assistive technology to become increasingly knowledgeable about its benefits and independent in its development and use. To do this, one of the wonderful things that came out of our collaborations was a visual guide, and I'm holding up a guide here that it's basically an 8.5 by 11 spiral-bound guide that is available online to download. I'll leave a copy out on the table where people can take a look at it, but you're welcome to go to our website and download a copy. We've created these printed guides for the areas in the world where there's it's hard to get to the internet or expensive to download and print it out. But basically what this guide is a collection of the adaptations that we created, and in order to cross cultural and language barriers, we created it in picture-based format. So that, I'm showing a picture here of the guide and a sample page where we show the end result of the adaptations. Very simple. In this case, it's just a long-handled reacher where it's on a stick with a hook on the end, something to soften the end, tied around the end, and that somebody could actually use it as a reacher to hang their clothes or to reach from a wheelchair to the ground, something up, that kind of thing.